You don't have to grow your own garden or even your own animals to have a well-supplied pantry. In this video today, I'm going to show you 6 very easy and simple steps to take to have a well-supplied pantry that can act as a food savings account for any kind of emergencies that may occur. Hey, it's Sarah from H is for Homestead. I'm excited to have you here. Let's chat a well-supplied pantry. What are some reasons that you would want a well-supplied pantry? You may not have as large of a family as me, or you might not have a homestead, and you might be thinking, this is probably not for me, but can I tell you that it actually is? We refer to our pantry as our food savings account. Really, for those rainy days when you have things, not even like huge devastating things, but maybe even something as simple as sickness happen, hospital visits, job loss, weather like a snowstorm or a hurricane, or even just a busy schedule. Then you also have the bigger, scarier world things. I think we all are kind of aware of those since 2020 happened. Back in the beginning of 2019, I really felt like the Lord was encouraging me, convicting me, whatever word you want to use, to be a better steward and be more prepared for my family. And we had some food sensitivities starting to come up, and it scared me to think, okay, what would happen if I couldn't get a hold of things? And it really put some things into perspective then as 2020 came along, realizing that, oh, okay, it's hard to find things that I need, and I didn't like that at all. So 2019, I really started slowly easing in to stocking a pantry. And honestly, my mom did this my whole life too. I was talking to her recently when she was just here visiting, and I said, I realized that you actually did that. You supplied your pantry. You didn't wait until you ran out of something completely before you bought it again. You had 1 or 2 bags of rice, and when we got down to those 2 bags, you would buy more. You would look for meat on sale. You would stock up, and I think that was kind of always in the back of my mind. And so slipping into a well-supplied pantry was actually really simple for me. So I'm going to share 6 steps that we kind of took, and I'm sure there are so many more things that could be said for a well-supplied pantry. So if you guys have comments or things that worked for you, let me know. But I'm going to give you the 6 steps that actually worked really well for us. Number 1 is start small. It can be overwhelming when you realize, okay, there's a whole lot that I could do. I could stock up on all these beans. I could stock up on all of this stuff. But start really small. Work in steps so that it's not overwhelming for you, but get started where you're at. I think getting started is the hardest thing in something like this. You want to help your brain and your budget and your home and your skills and all of those things. You have to be able to do those slowly because you need to build those things to be able to then build up to a 5-gallon bucket of beans, for example. So this is going to really depend on you and how you work your current grocery budget. First of all, if you don't have a grocery budget, start paying attention to how much you're spending on food. Number 1. Number 2, start paying attention to meals that you love. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit more. But pick like 2 meals that you love, say spaghetti and beans and rice. And when you go to the store once a week, decide, okay, I'm actually going to buy 2 weeks worth of this meal. And then I'm always going to try to keep 2 weeks worth on the shelf at all times. You can also, if you shop weekly, you can try to then start building up to shopping bi-weekly. If you have a certain monthly grocery budget, you could split it in half and you could say, okay, I'm going to use half of this grocery budget for my normal weekly things that, run out quickly, fresh fruit, salads, veggies, whatever it is that you're buying. But then the other half could potentially be used for buying things in bulk. And I started out this way, actually, buying 1 item in bulk every month that I went to the grocery store. I was already buying my groceries 1 month at a time, but I wasn't necessarily buying a bulk bag of something. So I actually started with a bulk bag of oats, and that was my one thing. And I actually put it in Ziploc baggies in the freezer, and it was pretty simple. So start small. That's my first tip. Number 2 tip is store what you love. store what you eat. If you hate lima beans, then there's absolutely no sense to store a whole bunch of lima beans. You actually really need to just store what you eat, even if you don't feel like it's the healthiest option. I'm going to take a little caveat here to say this is a Restaurant Depot that I'm showing a video of here really quick with my kids. I'm going to get to buying in bulk, but I wanted to show little clips of Restaurant Depot because they are kind of all over the place. I find them wherever I go if I can. And it's a really great place to buy things in bulk if you are to that point. But anyway, we're going to go back to tip number 2, storing what you actually eat. If you love boxed macaroni and cheese and that's what you do, awesome. Store that, right? Like, what are you eating on a regular basis, and try to start storing up and getting extra. The third tip that I'm going to give is before you actually buy the food, you really need to have storage in place. Now, storage does not have to be perfect in order for you to start stocking up and working towards a well-supplied pantry. But I will say, you do not want to buy a 25-pound bag of oats if you have nowhere to put it or you don't have a safe place to put it. Really have to be careful when, especially buying in bulk, something comes in a large package. You got to be careful about insects. You want to be careful about rodents that could get into something, or even moisture, dirt, dust, things like that. So, the first bag I bought, I just had Ziploc bags and freezer space. If that's all you can do, then awesome. But past that, if you want to get past that, you can start buying bins with lids. I love 5-gallon buckets, and I purchased the Gamma Seal lids that kind of help lock in moisture. It has like a 2 ring seal on it, and you can get into the bucket and out of the bucket a whole lot easier. So anyway, definitely have to be careful and just store what you eat. And then the third one was make sure that you have the storage in place. I feel like those kind of go together. So I put them together, but technically that was number 3. Number 4, and this may seem backwards even before you start shopping, but you have to build the skills to know what you can do with the food that you're getting. You can't come home with a 25-pound bag of oats if you literally never cook oatmeal from rolled oats, or you've never cooked dried beans before. So you really have to actually get skills and learn and practice in the kitchen, because if you have all this food, you're going to be wasting it. You're not going to know how to store it correctly. You're not going to know how to cook it. And then my favorite thing to do in the kitchen that has taken me a little bit of time is what I like to call backwards menu planning. And so backwards menu planning is one of those things where you look at what you have and you take inventory of what you have. And you then decide, okay, what are we going to eat this week? I noticed that, if you have chickens, okay, I noticed that we have a ton of eggs right now. Let's use a whole bunch of eggs. That happened this afternoon. So we made a bunch of egg salad, and that's what we actually ended up having for lunch and dinner, just because everybody loved it. And I was like, sweet, I don't have to cook dinner. But if you notice, okay, I browned up, 2 pounds of ground beef, but we didn't use it all. What other meal could I make with ground beef? I have potatoes that are going soft. Let's put potatoes on the menu. Now, if you're not a menu planner, that's fine. But I feel like getting an inventory of what you have already, instead of making a menu and thinking, I want to have this and I want to have this, and then going and buying that at the store, if you instead look at your pantry and look at your refrigerator like a grocery store and try to make meals from that. But that takes time, that takes skills. And so you're going to really have to learn to develop your skills in the kitchen if you're going to want to have a well-supplied pantry. You got to do something with that food. Food is not meant to just be stored and sit there forever. You need to be using it, unless you have it in Mylar bags or something like that. So that is number 4. Try to build skills in the kitchen. Okay, tip number 5, and I've referenced this already, but don't be afraid to buy in bulk. Okay, you don't have to have a family of 7 like us to buy in bulk. You can, if properly stored, you can buy things in large quantities, and it is a huge cost savings. Literally, I have been so shocked at how much savings I can get even from Aldi. So I love to shop at Aldi. But the deal is it's all the packages are small, and so I'm just using oats because that is the first thing I started with. But buying the little packages of oats from Aldi, you multiply that out and it is insane. Like Restaurant Depot, for example. I think the 50-pound bag of red potatoes was $16. Like, can you imagine? Like any grocery store you go to, like 3-pound bag of red potatoes. How much does that cost? I mean, I don't even want to throw that out there because I don't actually know because I've been buying in bulk. Potatoes kind of last for a long time. And if you're into canning, they actually can up really easily. You can also make things like twice baked potatoes and hash browns and things like that that you can throw in your freezer. So don't be afraid to buy in bulk. Bulk is a way to get good quality food for cheaper. It also saves you time because you're not running to the store all the time, and it saves you money because the products themselves are cheaper and because you're not running to the grocery store all the time. My favorite places to buy in bulk would be Azure Standard. I've mentioned them before. A lot of what I use is from Azure Standard. And I will say, in an ideal setting, I would be purchasing all completely organic and wonderful for you foods, but that's just not in our budget. And I had to come to terms with what am I okay with just getting run of the mill stuff at Restaurant Depot, and what do I really prefer to get organic from Azure Standard. If I had my way, I would purchase everything from Azure Standard. I love supporting them, but the Lord knows the resources that He's given us, that He's given you, and I think you just have to be okay with doing your very, very best with the resources that you have in front of you. So don't be afraid to buy in bulk. Azure Standard is a great one. Restaurant Depot that I mentioned before, really great place. I also purchased from Bread Becker's, which is a buying co-op. And it's interesting. I don't purchase a ton of things from one place necessarily. My mama taught me to look where the sales are, look for the things that are the best. And so what I like to buy from Bread Becker's is actually our whole grain kamut berries. And then I also buy sucanat from them and sunflower lecithin. That's like the only three things I get because the rest I think are cheaper at Azure Standard, but it depends on what you have access to. It might not be that way for you. And then, of course, Sam's or Costco are really great places to buy in bulk. And almost everybody, I would say, have access to something like that. Another place is from farmers or from farmers markets. If you really want something in bulk, go and ask them if they have like a canner special, or if they have, 25 pounds of carrots that they give you a special deal on. I would love to do that more than I do, but for now, I just do it as I can. So those are the places that I would recommend buying in bulk. Okay, the last thing that I will say, and I kind of hinted at it with ending that last tip, but number 6 is build relationships with local growers. I think that it's really important to realize that these local growers have worked incredibly hard, and they're your neighbors. They're your people right there. To relocalize your food supply, there's a significant benefit to that on so many levels. And I really don't have all the time in the world to talk about that. I think you guys probably understand the benefit of relocalizing your food supply and supporting those farmers. They are putting in the work. So much that happens in gardening, I see through scripture as well. You reap what you sow, and so many things that I learn from gardening. And I so appreciate the work and the sweat and the tears that farmers put in it. And I would rather support them if at all possible. So those are your 6 tips, guys. I know that there are so many more. You guys in the comments can tell me even more things that you feel like help you build up a really well-supplied food pantry. But remember with foods as well, and this is kind of off topic, but I'm reading a book by Sally Fallon. She said in the book, even whole foods, properly prepared according to traditional methods, do us no good if we eat them with a grudge. So remember, we can have foods for our family and healthy, well-stocked pantries, But if our heart attitude is grumbly, it's not going to do us any good. It really isn't. There's a lot of health to back that up. So love your family by serving them in the kitchen, and anyone can homestead, and it usually starts in the kitchen, but you have to have a well-stocked pantry. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out. I hope that this gave you some tips and that you're encouraged to try and get a well-stocked pantry, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.